We're going to try this. Okay. Hello there, and welcome to the Digital Quill Podcast. Excuse me. Hello, and welcome to the Digital Quill Podcast with your host, Mars Wilson. We are on episode 12 today. That is right. That is episode 1-2. And this is a video episode, so I figured I'd doll myself up just a wee bit, because this is the internet. And as I was saying in my test run on this, the internet likes it when you look good. You must look good for the internet. I usually look like a raccoon trash goblin thing, but that's fine because that is just the way I don't mind doing things. We can't always look great for the internet when we have a groundbreaking idea, or feel like utter trash all the time, and it never stops. I'm kidding, I don't feel like utter trash all the time and it never stops, but sometimes it feels that way. So what are we going to cover in today's episode? Well, we are a few episodes away from our first guest episode. Yes, actually, I took a look at today's date and I was like, oh, it is the last day of motherfucking April. The last day of April. Can you believe it? We are now on the last day of April. I've been recording for effectively now 2 months. 1 to 2 to 3 episodes a week. Since the middle of March, I believe. I think. Yeah, the middle of March. Actually, excuse me, I take that back. It's only been less than a month. Less than a month since you've been hearing my voice. Rah, rah, yay. This is not a cheering moment. We are still overcoming obstacles. We finally, if you listened to the last episode, got the audio correct. Yep, we got the audio correct. We have broken one milestone, exactly. I guess 12 episodes is a milestone, considering there were previously 0. But in today's episode 12, today we're going to talk a little bit about, skepticism and spirituality. I have a couple of books here that I'm going to be reading excerpts from. Excerpts? How do you pronounce that word correctly? Do I have the right face shape to pronounce that correctly? I don't know. Anyway. In a previous episode, I think I covered an excerpt from this. Spirit Tech. There we go. That's better. I've been reading this and marking up. I haven't been reading it as much as I should because I've been focusing on more light reads. But today in episode 12, we are talking about spirituality a little bit here, reading excerpts from books. I want to call today's episode Book Club because that is something I kind of want to do. I know it's a biased thing to say. I mean, I have a book I'm writing, right? What author, novelist, writer wouldn't want people to read, right? It wouldn't make sense to be writing and have no audience if no one read anything. So yes, I might be a little bit biased to being an author, writer thing. But I do think, regardless if you enjoy reading, there is scientific evidence stating that reading is good for your brain. That's right, it is good for your fucking noggin. It is good for this thing that you have to use every day until you die, and then some. We might use it a little bit afterwards. I don't fucking know. I don't know what happens. We might be exploring that just a little bit today, but reading is good for you. And I want to start instilling maybe not quite a love for reading, but a reading habit in people. The fact that we can communicate this way, talk, write, read, exchange knowledge and information is incredible. Like we take it for granted so much. Storytellers have been I want to say impervious, but I don't think that's the right word, have been integral in the human condition. which we do talk a lot about here. So. Speaking on that note, I actually want to read an excerpt first from the book I'm currently reading, and we'll get back to the book talk, like the book club talk in a moment, and reading talk in a moment. But I want to jump into this because I do not want this to be a long episode. I say that every fucking time, but I don't want this to be. I want this to be short, sweet, straight to the point, because I have a lot of other shit I need to go do today. A lot of other shit I need to go do today. I had failed to mention in the last episode, which was on Monday, I believe April 28th. Yeah, April 28th. That was a day I was trying to ignore because 2 years ago, I found my cat in between life and death, and I had to put her to sleep. And 6 months later from that, I had to put my dog to sleep. And let's just say that 2023 was a wash. I don't ever, I lost so much, I know it was just the both of them, but I lost so much, just in that. But I also gained a lot of knowledge and, grief and stuff. I wrote a poem about that, actually, which, maybe we talk about that today. I don't have it prepared, but next episode we'll talk about the unsealed and just go over my previous entries to instill a love for reading and also writing. So yes, I was trying to ignore that, and it was kind of hard to, but also I kind of want to acknowledge that, because when I do get weird around certain times, emotionally, or seem to be all over the place, I'm still processing grief. I don't think that's ever something I'm going to stop processing, because when you lose something close to you, especially something that you pretty much made a promise to stay alive for, it changes you. It changes you. No one prepares you for being in the veterinarians with them when they pass. So that's a thing I'm going to remember forever. But yeah, I do get weird around that time because I'm still going to process it and stuff. And I mean, they were kind of what I deemed my best friends for a long time. So I want to acknowledge their memory and what they taught me about love and companionship and loss and grief. But I also want to ignore that because it's painful and I miss them. Miss a lot of things, and that's one of the human conditions. You miss things. But yeah, that's what I wanted to get to, and I didn't because I wanted to forget about it. So yes, that is a point I was trying to make in the last episode but didn't. Now that that's out of the way, back to Spiritus Mundi and other things. So currently, I am reading James Patterson, Raised by Wolves. And to give you a little bit of backstory, because I'm writing this book, and there's mixed views on it, I've gathered. Of course there's mixed views on it, but actual mixed views that I was able to verify about reading while you're writing a novel or a book. And I do agree on some aspect that if you're reading while writing a book, there might be a little bit of overlap. But at the same time, I do think that if you're aware of that, there won't always be overlap, because if you're writing a story that's really personal to you or something like that, Spiritus Mundi actually kind of goes into this, which is one of the reasons why I'm bringing this point up now. But in my author's journey in writing 21 Days Gone, I decided that I needed to start actually reading again, because reading is not something that I had been doing for a while after doing it nonstop. It's a weird timeline, okay? We'll get to that. So I started reading again, and I'm not reading quite to where I was hoping I was or am or whatever, but I am reading again. And it was important to me to start reading again while writing this book, because what kind of writer or author can be yeah, I've never read a single book in my life, but I wrote this? I mean, valid. That is a valid thing. People can do that. Knowledge, blah, 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 wisdom, whatever. But to me, for this story, it felt important to start reading again. And almost every book I've picked up with 21 Days Gone in mind this actually touches that in Spiritus Mundi too, but I just feel such a inclination towards. In this book, James Patterson's Raised by Wolves is no different. Quite frankly, no different. Excerpt time. So in every book, or not every book, most in every book, there's usually a dedications page or like a quotes page, right? And this is kind of like, when I read this, because I usually read this page before reading the rest of the book, because sometimes it sets the tone. And I was like, oh shit. So let's read this excerpt. People love telling stories. Sad ones, scary ones, funny ones. Stories too good to be true or too awful to be believed. But we aren't the only animals with tales to tell. Bees wiggle their striped little butts to tell the story of how to get from one flower to another. Hippos rumble the story of their territory. And wolves sing the story of their pack. Telling our stories is a way of saving our lives. I didn't realize it at first because I was like, I wonder who Kai is. And then I started reading the book and I'm like, oh, that's a character from the book. I see now. And when I read that, wolves, if you don't know, is like one of my spirit animals. It's like been my favorite animal my entire life. I actually had a whole brand and logo thing for wolves, sort of. But when I picked this one up recently and started reading it, because James Patterson is a novel writer I wanted to start reading. I actually have never read a single book by him before, despite hearing that he's really good so far. But yeah, I read that quote and I was like, oh shit, wolves do have stories to tell. Bees have stories to tell. Just everything has a story to tell, and storytelling is so important. It's actually one of the reasons like why I've been writing so much about Daniel Sherman and the storyteller. Like, it's trying to tell a story, and then like how there's a lot of reasons for a lot of the things I'm doing right now. They're all interconnected in one way or another. Just one way or another. But I was reading this and I'm like, because my story is truth turned fiction, I was like, oh, you are correct. We do have even tragic ones to tell. And telling stories is a way of saving lives. When I got to that very end of that line, telling stories is a way, or telling our stories is a way of saving our lives, I was like, that's kind of why I'm writing 21 Days Gone. I want to prevent what happened to me from happening to other people, even though the gross fact is that it does happen to other people, and it's probably happening right now. But on we prevail, and hopefully by doing this work and writing these stories and talking about these things, I know I allude a lot to it, but in talking about these things, hopefully we stop it. Hopefully it comes to a stop before I take my final breath. That sounds so hopeful and naive and utopian, but if it paves the pathway for a better future, okay. I am okay with living in that delusional land. It's better than living in the Delulu land of Mad Max and World War Z. I'll take it. So now that we have this excerpt out of the way, let's circle back to book club talk. Because reading is important to your brain, to yourself, to knowledge, to understanding, to connection and community and people. I want to see people reading again. And I'm going to be sharing the books I read, the excerpts and stuff that I learn, things that touch me, things that make me think or feel. And I hope that you do the same. You may not be on Discord. That's okay. There's an email that you can use. You may not have an email, and that's okay. I'm not sure how you're getting these episodes, but okay. That's okay. There's these episodes and the comment sections on YouTube and Spotify, and if you become a paying subscriber, comments on Substack, which I need to utilize more often, so please pay. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Don't do that. I don't want to beg for support like that. But all of it is interconnected. I want to interconnect other communities to also reading and stuff, and hopefully we can do that. Hopefully, as the Digital Quill family, as each other, as humans of Earth, as creatures of Earth, we can instill reading again, even if it's not necessarily by force. And like I said, you don't have to like it, but like, it's good for you. It's good. I'll tell you what. I'll begin collecting my research on reading being good for you, and we'll have an entire episode about it. And then we'll have a guest shortly after that episode, a librarian or something having to do with books and knowledge keeping. Yeah, let's do that. I'll do that. Yep, that is one of my next bigger projects. Or not big projects, but a big project. If you do currently read, and I don't have to shove a book down your throat, what do you read right now? And as I said in a previous episode, it took me a long time to get there. But yes, graphic novels and comic books and manga are indeed a form of reading. I can't call article reading a form of reading without calling those things reading too. So, and I barely call article reading because it's nonfiction and opinion-based and journalistic, but at the same time, it's just that. There is no imagination. I mean, I guess there's some. I can't say that. Disregard everything I said. Reading's important no matter what you read. Now that we've cleared book talk and book club, which will be something we'll be starting eventually soon, talking about books and stuff, and maybe we'll have a contest, some sort of internal contest where if you can present to me that you've read so many books, you might get a free copy of 21 Days Gone. Special copy of 21 Days Gone. I actually went over merch ideas earlier for it. I was like, all right, how do I want to logistics this? Do I want this many? And it's a thing. It's a thing that I'm thinking of talking about in like a members only type of thing, because I guess I have like a subscription based thing on TikTok now. I was able to apply for that, and I have one subscriber. It's like $2.99 a month, I think. I think I set that at a low price, or $3.99, probably $2. Anyway, I'm really trying the internet things here, okay? I'm trying here. I would love to be a bushmaster and never deal with electronics or communication again, but at the same time, that would go against almost everything else I believe in, which is community and people, and it takes a village, and just because things are difficult, Mars, you can't run away to the woods and become a wild animal. That's not how being a human being in the human world works. Even if you really want that and sounds awesome, you might die an early death because you're used to hot chips. Conversations I have with myself sometimes. One of the other things besides book talk and that excerpt was skepticism. Sometimes it might sound like I'm not a skeptic to anything, that I'm willing to take every information I receive in. Not true. I mean, I am willing to take every information I see in, but that doesn't mean I believe it. Seeing is believing goes a lot more deeper than just seeing is believing. And I am open-minded, sometimes to a fault, sometimes to a point where it makes me naive, and personal battles. But I am a skeptic. I am skeptical of things. And earlier I actually asked myself this question because I was writing my notes, and I don't even have a full page of notes that I wanted to write down for this episode because I was thinking about what I wanted to talk in this episode, and I knew I wanted to cover the books and skepticism and other stuff, but at the same time I also had nothing because I ended up taking an early morning nap and losing everything I was thinking about before that early morning nap. Creativity always hits you right before you're going to sleep. Keep a notepad by your bed. I was thinking about my skepticism, and I'm like, where did it even come from? Why am I so willing to be open-minded and yet also be a skeptic? So believing yet so skeptical. I feel like I developed a healthy dose of both early on. Growing up, I was deep in reading and a lot of other stuff to make sense of trauma. And I would watch spiritual shows and supernatural shows. There was a show I liked a lot that was loosely based on actual events, if you could call it that. And I'm actually going to quote it. And I want to see, because I don't want to give the name of the show away. I really don't. I want this to be kind of a game. I'm going to quote part of the show. And if you recognize it, comment it or reach out. Tell me what you think if you've seen it. Tell me what you think the quote is from. Before I do that, we're going to keep talking about skepticism and where I learned it. I've talked about this before to myself and to like other people, but I call myself a believing skeptic. I do believe in the impossible, the improbable, the unlikely, the supernatural. I do believe that there are things that are just out of our reach that we don't understand and probably never will and maybe shouldn't always mess around with. I've had experiences that I don't want to talk about here right now because suspense. I want to leave you in suspense. I want you coming back for future episodes. I want you to be like, wait, didn't you say you were going to talk about that? I am. One day. But, not right now. I'm not going to tell you about some of the things I've seen. Some of the things I've experienced or thought I experienced. But I am going to tell you this. For a long time, because I was trying to make sense of trauma, and I was also, like, beginning to write stories. I was probably around the age of 6. I was fighting between the lines of reality and fiction. Imagination versus reality. There were a lot of things going on in my life at the time, both real and I would argue supernatural, that were leaving me with more questions than answers. So I would start answering those questions for myself because not a lot of other people had them. And I was like, okay, time to read everything from Judaism to Stoicism to just Eastern, Western, Northern, fucking ancient cultures and civilizations and belief systems, philosophies, religions, texts, stuff that no one else my age was reading, and I am now understanding why I was alienated so much. I mean, I understand, I get it, I've had a lot of time to analyze that, but damn, holy crap. Okay, no wonder I'm burnt out on it as an adult, but at the same time, still intrigued. There are things we don't know about. There are two things we don't know about being answered all the time now. Have any of you seen any of the latest episodes regarding UFOs or anything like that? I am skeptical, I am believing, and something that helped me piece everything together, as dumb as it sounds, is a TV show. And I got really good at kind of differentiating between what might have been Hollywoodized versus what was real eyewitness accounts that were Hollywoodized. And in this world, there is real evil. In the darkest of shadows, and in the most ordinary of places, there are doors. I might have messed that up. Sometimes I have a form of dyslexia. It's not quite dyslexia, it's hard to explain. An ADHD/autism thing, I think. Let me try again. Scratch that. Scratch whatever the fuck I was just saying to you. But anyway, in this world, there's real evil. In the darkest of shadows, and in the most ordinary of places. These are the true stories of the innocent and the unimaginable. Between the world we see and the things we fear, there are doors, and when they are opened, nightmares become reality. When I was growing up, especially between the ages of 8 and 12, while I was in therapy, while I was coming to terms with things that were going on or had gone on, I coined the experiences as, while other children were dealing with monsters in their closet, fake ones, I was dealing with a real monster under my bed. And it was kind of a dark joke to myself, because the monster was actually under my bed, because we had a bunk bed. But when I think about that, when I think about the quote I just read to you, these are the stories of the innocent and the unimaginable. Between the world we see and the things we fear, there are doors, and when they are opened, nightmares become reality. How nightmarish can you be? Violating another person or their rights. How nightmarish can you be going against your humanity? Crossing boundaries and into territories that you know on some level that you should not be crossing into. I think the doors and fear and darkness is a lot more than just supernatural sometimes. And yes, it can be. It can be supernatural. But there is real evil in this world. Interesting. This is a spiritual belief in like a faith system I'll touch on in another episode. But I think, as I said in the previous ones, that there are 3 sides to a coin. There's the front, the back, and the sides. The heads, the tails, and the thing that connects the two. The yin and yang symbol has the same thing. I think certain types of evil are actually on the outside of that. I think there is a balance of good and bad that you need, that negative and positive, that light and dark, that kind of thing. But I think there is something on the outside of that, and it likes to bleed in sometimes. I'll touch on that more on another time, but keeping that in mind, we are going to move on to Spiritus Mundi. This is literally only an episode on occult, spiritualism, philosophy, book talk, or book club, book talking, book thing. And I want you to look at this title. And you're probably thinking, wow, that's a really dark and scary looking book. We don't judge books by covers. I'm going to read the first part of the introduction because I don't have anything highlighted or marked up in here. I haven't decided if I want to yet. Maybe I should and get a clean copy. But, introduction to Spiritus Mundi. All the works in this collection came from nothing. That is hardly unusual. All stories start with an empty page, don't they? But it is quite miraculous, when you think about it, how the human mind is capable of weaving stories, distilling moments and feelings into poems, and enabling other people to feel the things we feel, giving us access to other parts of the world and ourselves. Perhaps nothing truly comes from nothing. There are experiences and memories which feed into our dreams and influence the way we see the world. There's the impact of culturally inherited values and ideas along with experience and memory. Often, various influences intersect to birth something new. Page 8, gonna further this quote and say, many feel uneasy when the word occult crops up in conversation. In many minds, it occupies the same realm as death, bringing to mind the macabre, the gothic, the demonology, curses, and shadowier side of humankind. The occult can involve many of these things, so discomfort is understandable. The occult is also a reminder of chaos, of the existential questions we might pose alone in the darkness of night, those moments when we remember we are strange things inhabiting a body, unable to contemplate any other state of being. It is both a memento mori and the vertiginous feeling, of dwelling in an infinite and expanding universe. It is the opposite of certainty and reality, a scary prospect for those who wish to keep their feet planted firmly on the ground. But it is important to stress that the word occult itself just means hidden. The occult wasn't always seen as anti-ethical to Christianity, nor did it solely exist in the underground. And as I said before, and this is one of the reasons why this book is actually now one of my integral tools to writing and existing, is this. This isn't a straightforward anthology, but a book on and of occult writing. Within are works derived from employing occult methods. There is also a consideration of what that means. It isn't an exhaustive cultural history of all the writers and artists who've employed occult means to invite creative inspiration, though we will skim that terrain. The stories and poems that follow can be enjoyed by everyone. Some thematically touch on the occult, many do not. The chapters and introductory essays also serve as creative prompts, ways of seeking inspiration and rediscovering flow when confronted with creative stagnation. This is one of the reasons why writing and knowledge seeking and reading is so important to me, and why I think it should be important in general, is these very next lines. And then I'm going to move on from quoting this book because I kind of want you to read it. I'll link books in the description or whatever. Nor is this a general introduction to the occult. Instead, it offers a glimpse into the unknown, a set of windows or mirrors through which we might find new ways of seeing and thinking, and through which we will hopefully get closer to finding our own. We can all be creative, and we can all be writers, whether we intend to publish our words or not. Writing is profoundly powerful. It helps us carve a place for ourselves in the world, process our experiences, connect with others, understand human nature, and cope in a world that is often painful. Being in control of our own narrative also enriches life and renders it more meaningful. Perhaps we cannot defy morality or mortality, but we can, as the ancient Assyrians found, escape oblivion by having our words etched into stone. This anthology is both a creative grimoire and a compendium of work born out of the great unknown, the unconscious, the occult. It is a eulogy to the enchanted origins of much storytelling and poetry, an invitation to dream, and to dream together. And isn't that what being human is all about? Experiencing and exploring the very confines of our realities together. Expanding upon and learning from storytelling. I might have done it. I might have run out of things to say at the right amount of time for this episode. It helps when you didn't write enough notes. To recap, reading is important. Reading is very important, and we should all be reading. Let's read together. Let's make it more bearable by reading together and talking with each other. Knowledge and communicating is important. Let's tell ourselves and make a promise to ourselves that we will work on that for as long as it takes to be understood and to understand. And also, let's acknowledge the fact that not everyone is going to understand us. And that's okay. Let's see, I actually wanted to see if I... All right, there it is. I should really mark this book. Employed by the poet and occultist W.B. Yeats, I borrow for this volume the term Spiritus Mundi, or world spirit. Renaissance philosophers, including the German polymath Henrik Cornelius, I'm bad at pronunciations, Henrik Cornelius Agrippa, and the Italian Platonist Marsilio Ficino had already written about Spiritus Mundi when the West was being exposed to the Hermetica and Plato for the first time in centuries. I had actually planned on looking into that for further reading after I finished Spiritus Mundi or got close. But yes, so if you know anything about that, feel free to dish in the comments below, by all means. Yes, we have finally reached that end where I am brain dead, and it is... Damn, I need to get going. Alright. It was great to chat to the Void. Nice to see you guys again. If you want to get in touch or possibly be an episode on, or a guest, or... If you want to get in touch and possibly be a guest on a future episode, the email that you can reach me at is dearmars2023@gmail.com. That is DEARMARS2023@gmail.com. You can also feel free to comment on the YouTube or the Spotify. I think Spotify, yeah, actually Spotify does allow comments. I have exactly 2 comments, 1 comment, I think, I don't know. This is not a video episode on Spotify, which I need to fix. And I am going to be changing my site hosting, so if you have suggestions, let me know. I I know today was an interesting little episode, I guess, to myself, because one, I wasn't entirely prepared, but at the same time I kind of was. I think I've said that before. But yes, what is this quote from? The one from earlier, the one I read, "In this world there is real evil." What show is that from? And bonus points if you know who the name is of the narrator that said it. What kind of spiritual wisdom do you have for us today? Feel free to impart it. Let's see. The next episode will be going out Friday, and then very shortly we will be having our first guest. I won't give it away who yet. Maybe you can guess. Maybe you can guess. As we sit here in awkward silence, I wait for you to comment and also decompress, because I'm tired and I'm stalling because I don't want to go do what I need to go do. But anyway, I should, and I hope you have a great day today. Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you've listened to all other episodes, thank you. You are awesome. As always, humans of Earth, keep going. Don't ever stop. Keep going. Keep doing it. Keep going. Thank you for letting me teach you, inspire you, motivate you, or at the very least, entertain you. Thank you for letting me give you my time, and thank you for sharing your time with me. It has been an honor learning from you. Until next time, bye.